Anybody has heard of the Oranian Platz movement? No. You have? No? Okay, you have heard of it. And so today we are going to focus on this Oranian Platz movement and why it was here. Here where we are is called Kreuzberg. And Kreuzberg is a district, one of the districts in Berlin. It's considered a leftist kind of district. And that's why it was possible to start the movement, to station the movement here in Oranian Platz. And it started with an Iranian man who committed suicide in a town called Würzburg. And the death of this Iranian man was because of the living conditions of the asylum homes. And with this death, it sparked a discussion, a talk around and within the refugee people themselves, because they were all living in the same situation and nobody was talking about it. And from this death, there was the decision to march to the capital city of Berlin to address the issues that the refugees were facing.
Which year was it?
2012. 2012. And at the time, we were protesting some things that were happening in the asylum process. The first was the residence pflicht. The residence pflicht is a law that dictates once you're registered in one state, you're not allowed to leave to the next state. It looks like you're familiar with it. And this law, we kept wondering, why should we be held like prisoners while as we are already registered in a country and we are asking for protection? So that was the first thing we were protesting. The second was a voucher system. The voucher system is what you got in terms of your social money for your support, your upkeep. And this voucher system were very dehumanizing in the sense that when you entered a supermarket, they were always in denominations of 5, 10, 20, and 50. So you had to make calculations of the commodities you were buying in a supermarket. And it was only very specific supermarkets. And you had to make these calculations. If you had a voucher of 20 euros, you had to make the calculations of 20 euros, because if you did less, then they were not allowed to give you cash. And this was the first sign of making us look like crazy people to the society, because once you enter a supermarket and you're counting, everybody will wonder, what's wrong with these foreigners? This was the first point of creating conflict between the refugees and the citizens. So that was the second. The third was we had no right to work. We had no right to study the German language. It was like those rights were not there. And yet, any letter that came from Banff was in the highest German language, and yet you are not allowed to study the language. So those were four. The fifth, we were protesting the lager systems, because they were always, in the time, the Heims were only in Brandenburg around, but in Berlin there were no Heims. They were only in the area of Brandenburg. And these Heims were always very disconnected to everything. You reach the train station, you have to take a bus and take you like 20 minutes, a 20-minute stretch. This bus ended at 5. In the weekends, there was no bus. And up to date, some Heims are still situated in these spaces. So we were protesting the asylum system and the isolation that the refugees went through in that time. Yeah, so we will move to the next stop, and then after the next stop, I will explain as we continue to walk. This Kreuzberg has a population of around 280,000 people. 40% are people with a migration background. And this migration background includes the Turkish community who came here as guest workers. And then they were supposed to go back after their contracts. But then they started to fight. for their rights to work, for their rights to stay, and their rights to bring their family.
But they sent back them too now.
Not the people who came here as guest workers. I'm talking about this district of this district of Kreuzberg. And so the majority of the people here are the Turkish community. And they are the ones who are having all the shops here. They have a good part in they contribute very well in the economy because they have their own businesses. And it's such a multicultural area. Here is one of the places that you will not experience racism. But in the presence of the media, they call it a hotspot for crime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's how they describe spaces where people like us are more. They do not want to show the history of why the people who are here are here. So this tour is also part of it to show why it's not only the refugees, but there were also other people who migrated. And in the time of Oranienplatz movement, the migrants in this Kreuzberg gave us immense support during the movement. Because some of the things we were fighting for were the same things they knew they had to fight for. So this is how the movement connected different people. We would have gone that way, but now it has been closed. Whew. It's green.
Where's that? This
Here.
orange?
This orange building,
Okay.
and also this place, this garden. It's a nice place to hang out. So, you speak the same language. You're both from Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Yeah. For Afghanistan, it's impossible. They are deporting people day and night. Like day and night. Hello. Yes, my dear. We stop here for just another 1 minute. Some people ask what happened to all the people or some of the people who are in the Oranienplatz movement. And the media has a tendency of showing the black man or the Arab man in the park, at the Golitsa Park, selling drugs, but they don't show what part of the work they are doing to contributing into the society. And they have organized themselves in such a way that they are running this kind of Sudanesische Specialitäten. But this, they do not show what the refugee man is doing in this society. Have you ever been to this area before?
I think it was 2016 I was here.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Here we are at the school. I hope today we will not be told to move away because we always, whenever they see us, they think we are coming to occupy, especially now that all these faces are migrants. But, yeah. So this is the Gerd Hauptmann Schule. And I said when it was towards December, winter was coming, it was cold. We had makeshift tents, which was super cold. There was a need to have some place where people would sleep, refresh themselves, keep warm. During the occupation, if you remember, I said there were people who walked from different places, from Würzburg all the way to here. There were different camps, and they broke the residence fleet themselves. So besides being in the movement, the asylum, each person faced their asylum, each on your own. Then there was a decision to evict Oranienplatz, and then they decided they wanted to also evict the school. In between, we had the idea to make this a refugee center, because if we would have achieved it to have a refugee center, then it would have been possible to have a center where people applying for asylum were able to get the relevant information on how to navigate this society. And there were discussions with the district the whole time. It took 6 months with the district negotiating if we could have a refugee center here. But then in the end, there was the decision to evict the school. So what happened is that one morning on the 24th of June, there came almost 1,000 policemen. And these 1,000 policemen, they closed all the entry points from the. We entered from there. You can enter from there. They closed all the four corners of the street. So what happened? What was the reactionary action that happened? People decided to occupy the roof. And in that time, we got a lot of solidarity from the neighborhood of this area because of this time of the occupation. I'm trying to look for. This is how it looked like. And we stayed on the roof for 9 days. It was summer. That was an advantage. For those 9 days, there were people there throughout. Like the 9 days, we had our women's space on that bus stop where we coordinated the things the people needed from inside. And people from inside was Denise, now we were coordinating, and Mimi, and a lot of people were there in the school. So we created a point in the bus station where we could communicate, what do you need? We need ABCD, we need, everything. So we were able to sustain what was happening in the school. There is a film, like the one now we are making, that is the 9 days on the roof. If you go to our website, you will see what happened in those 9 days. She's the one who made the film, and that is part of the work that we do to document the struggles of the migrant women. I will still talk of the IVS when I stop the next stop. So that was the resistance. So what happened? We forced, because in that time it was also during Ramadan. So the people, one of the people you saw at the restaurant there, is one of the people who were on the forefront. And they said if the police enters the school, we were going to jump down. It was not a threat, they were serious. They were going to jump down. And if they died, Germany was responsible. But then the most important is to understand that this movement was effective. It changed, it exposed the asylum system. It brought changes. The way people begin to think that the laws of the land cannot be changed, when people are organized, it means things can change. And this is the message I want you to get as we continue, unless there is another question. You've seen the demands.
Why you, like, the people was occupied the school one like somewhere else? Why they occupied here at the school?
At the time, where they were sent?
No, why you occupied the school?
We were occupying the school because they wanted to evict the movement. And
there was no any other places to occupy?
This school was empty. It had been empty for, I don't know for how many years.
Okay.
That's why it was possible to...
then why you were just on the second floor?
No, the women's space was only in the second floor. The other space was filled up with other people. But for us, the second floor, that's what I want you to remember, was our floor. So when I reach to the point of talking the women's space, I will talk about this second floor. Yeah? Other questions? Next year, we will be 10 years since the Oranienplatz movement. For sure, we are organizing ourselves, and we will let you know what we will be organizing. Now, we want to understand the politics behind this park. Most of the people who are in this park are black people and Arab-looking like people. This is the face of crime. And we want to analyze why the situation is like that. We have these people who are coming here from Italy, Malta, Greece, and these are the the economic refugees. They are saying we need work, we need blah, blah, blah. But then there is a Dublin regulation. The Dublin regulation has made it impossible for people to enter a second country. And most of the people in this park are coming from Italy, Malta, Greece. And when they enter here, Germany says it's not responsible. They have nothing. The EU failed to discuss the basic living standards of people seeking for asylum. It categorically failed. And that's why the living conditions in other EU countries are terrible. Now, I want us to talk about why we leave our countries. Because nobody would be using the boats to enter Europe if your country was safe. Why do we leave our countries?
Because save life.
To?
Save our life and have a good life, better life.
Better
No
life.
war.
No war.
Yeah.
And who is selling the weapons?
The Europe countries.
Germany is the third.
Yeah.
Germany is the third with Europe with the selling weapons. So they manufacture the wars in our countries, but when we come here, we are not allowed to live here because then we are unwanted. What other reasons are we here?
Because of the war.
The other reasons, that is the war. What else?
Lack of food. Like,
We don't have lack of food. We have resources. We are only impoverished. The continuation of colonization.
Yeah.
The effect of colonization and neo-colonialism. When all our resources were taken, they came to build these countries. And they steal resources from our countries. And goods can enter from all our countries, but we cannot enter. So that is the politics. And when you look at, there's something else we call exploitation, you all know. Anything you wear, any food you eat is not coming from this country, it's coming from somewhere else. So some people are being exploited somewhere in our own countries, and they are not paid the proper wages, so there is exploitation. There is exploitation, there is unfair trade. Because if they did trade fairly with our country, we would be at par. But because of continued exploitation, that's why we come to these countries. And that's why in the movement we stated very clearly, we are here because you destroyed and you continue to destroy our lands. And when you hear about this politics of drugs, this is just propaganda. When they say it is propaganda. Because when they put the face of crime as the black person or the Arab-looking person, where is the face of the consumer of the drug? And where is the face of the drug baron? Because these people are peddling grams. Where is the face of the drug baron? And the history of drugs here is not coming with us. We have just been put in a situation where we have to do the jobs that the worst kind of jobs. Because of regulations, they have put us in such vulnerable positions. And when you go towards the end of this trace is where you find International Women's Space. And since the occupation of the school, you can make a photo of this and check the website. Since the occupation of the school, we always say we occupied an occupation. So what was our role as International Women's Space? We were part of the movement, but we found the need to organize ourselves because there are issues that affect us for the bare fact that we are women. And these things, we also face them inside the movement, like sexism, patriarchal. These are things that were in the movement. And it's always in this kind of movements when women organize themselves separately, then we are told we are there to break the movement, but that was not the intention. So what did we do also as part of the movement? We organized ourselves in the school because there was a German classes. We organized ourselves to study the German language. We organized ourselves to have workshops inside the women's space. And these workshops were legal workshops for us to at least understand what the asylum system was about, because nobody had an idea. We had meetings. We had a sleeping space where so many women passed through this space. And then there was a political side where the women were organizing, where we were organizing politically. And after the eviction, we were also displaced. Remember, when the movement is evicted, people disperse in different ways. And either the movement is finished, people assume, that's why I'm taking you around this tour to show you the movement was not evicted. So we continued, and in 2015, we did our first publication of our own stories. And these stories was as a result of us, while we are inside the school, we were a mixed group. We were refugees, migrants, and white women also, because it was a space. And this question always kept coming, asking us, why did you leave your country? Where did you leave your country? And we found the need to explain or to give the stories of women, where we wrote it in 3 languages. The first language which the woman gave the interview in, then English, and then German. So that was our first publication in 2015. 2017, we did our second publication. We exist, we are here. And it's still the same year where we organized a very big conference. And this conference was about the things that happened to migrant and refugee women in the past. The migrant workers, the contract workers, women who applied for asylum from the East and the West, people who were told they have migration background even if they had never migrated. This conference was like 2 days, and it had all this information. These videos are on our website. So if you want to understand what the contract workers went through, it's on the website. If you want to understand what the guest workers went through, it's on the website. If you want to understand the real racism in this country, because there were people who are born here, they have never been accepted here. That's why it's important to know you will never be accepted here. That racism is...
Never accepted it.
No.
Sorry? Who never accepted what?
I'm talking about the racism in the country.
But
Yes.
if you will become a good person, like there's a footballist, his name is Nadim Amiri. They never say that he's Afghan German, they say he's a German.
But do you think he doesn't face racism in the football?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the point.
That's the point. That's exactly the point. You will never be accepted in this country. Because even the children who are born here, they are baptized, they have a migration background, and they were born here. So who are we that are coming? Does it make sense? And that is Germany for you. I know you're young, I know you want to integrate, I know you want to do an Ausbildung, and it's fantastic. But don't do it because you want to be accepted. Do it because you want to be resourceful and empower yourself and do your own thing. So just put that at the bottom of your mind so you don't get disappointed or you don't get frustrated at the end, because that's the way it is. Yeah?
But it was like for me, like in the school and everywhere they say there's no racism.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but actually I find this one racism. Even I was in school,
Yeah.
they say there's no racism, but it is, a kind of it is there.
Yeah.
But I was like a little bit shocked because I think Germany is more better than other countries in Europe. But
Germany is only able to hide its racism because it's a rich country. Yeah? Yeah?
yeah.
Can you say that again?
No.
It is able to hide its racism because it's a rich country.
Because it's a rich country.
Yes. Is that clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so thankful.
Yes. That's why it's important
Yeah,
to understand the history of the people like you who have been here many years before. To understand how they lived. So that you don't think that it's going to be any different for you. Yeah? Is it so shocking for you?
Yeah.
Sorry, but that's the reality. But it doesn't stop you from doing your Ausbildung. You study, do until the PhD, the last level, but it's for you. Be in a position of power that you have these qualifications and you can decide, fuck off Germany, I'm going to live somewhere else. That's your power. That's your tool of negotiation. But don't do it because you want to be accepted in this country. Yes?
But if it's not just in this country, maybe in some other countries too.
Yes,
If
but
you
then
have your qualification, but you go to another country, but they didn't accept you or they didn't give you a job.
it depends, but you have something to negotiate with. And the minute you understand that, you're able to position yourself as a woman of color in this country. Yeah? Yes, unless you have a question. Our books, you can ask them online. For you young ladies, if you come by one of the Wednesdays, we can give you some books for yourselves. Yeah?
Can we join your...
Oh, yes.
organization?
That's why I'm convincing you. I'm not... No. But of course, yes.